Well, joining us now is former BBC royal correspondent Michael Cole. Hi, Michael. I mean, I was agog with the news on Friday, I think, as we all were. I mean, finally, we know a little bit about what's been going on. We know the severity, really, of the issue. We can finally understand why she wanted to maintain confidentiality and a bit of space and distance from the glare of the public spotlight. But where from here, essentially? What now for Kate and what now for the royal family?
Yeah, good afternoon, Alex. Good afternoon, Kevin. That's the thing about trust, isn't it? Once it's broken, it's gone forever. And as things are at the moment, I doubt that the Prince and Princess of Wales would allow the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to take their dog Lupo for a walk with any hope of getting it back at the end of it. That's how far we are away from brotherly love between these two royal brothers who were once so very close together. And indeed, Harry was very, very close to Princess Kate as well. That was, of course, all pre-Meghan. We also heard, of course, it's no surprise that they wouldn't let them know beforehand for fear that they would leak it themselves in California. We also heard that they reached out privately to Kate and William from California. Well, it couldn't have been that private because we all knew about it. The BBC...
That's a good point.
The BBC reported this rather breathlessly, Kevin, and that was backed up by ITN's excellent Chris Shipp. I don't know whether it did happen. And of course, what we don't know is who said what to whom. But I think it would be a very, very long way in the distance before Kate would be interested in speaking particularly to Meghan after all the very hurtful, unkind, untrue things that they've alleged against her. Of course, it may happen, but before that, I think they'll be skiing down the streets of Pasadena, which is the capital in the desert of California. But never say never. You mentioned the fact that they're coming over here for the Invictus Games, and 3 cheers for the Invictus Games. It's a brilliant concept, brilliantly completed by Prince Harry, but that was all in the days pre-Meghan. That's the sort of thing a royal prince ought to be doing and has done and can be congratulated by us. But if the Waleses are saying they have no plans to meet, I think you can read a great deal into that. I think before there's going to be any meeting, there's going to be a lot of fence repairing. And I think that Harry needs to repair a fence, which is probably as long as one that goes round the Sandringham estate, and I think that's 12,000 acres.
I think that fence, frankly, I don't want to be depressing, Michael, but it's irreparable, and I think William is making that be known. Such are the grievous nature of the crimes that Harry has committed against the family. I mean, you can't, you say, oh, well, surely under these circumstances, William should allow him back into the fold. I mean, how many people can say, well, what happened was my brother went to this other country and then went on to international television and called us all racists and slave drivers and skinflints. I mean, what he did was unconscionable. And I think William finds it unforgivable, probably for the rest of time. Charles, of course, it's his son. He wants things to be better, but it's an uphill climb they've got there. A quick word, Michael. You and I have spent the last couple of weeks, I feel slightly chastened. You and I spent the last couple of weeks saying, come on, Kate, make a statement to the nation. That will clear the air, which she did, and it did clear the air. So we were right to that extent. And I kept saying, why didn't you do it now? Why did you take 2 weeks? Well, should have thought about this. She was waiting until school finished so that her kids could handle the announcement that she was making. So this is for me and for you, Michael. But she, in other words, they did have a plan, but they were thinking of the kids. So everything has been explained now. Why was William 28 minutes or 28 minutes away from turning up at his godfather's memorial service and didn't? That was the moment he found out his poor wife had cancer. So all of us should feel sort of slightly chastened, but I think now the royal family are totally exonerated. They did the right thing. Now it is time to leave Kate alone.
Yeah, I think brilliantly accomplished. She wrote every word. Every word was exactly right. The tone was right. She was cool. She was calm. She was distinguished. She was elegant. And she delivered what is a terrible message, you know, looking down the unblinking eye of the lens and saying something so important, so personal, and getting it right is quite an accomplishment. We people in the television trade, we know how difficult it is to do what is known in the trade as a stand-upper, look down the camera lens and have every word you've said believed. And they have accomplished it properly, and we understand that the reason for the school getting the children away from the school, where kids may have said to them, "What's wrong with your mum?" or, you know, something like that, because kids are unthinking and they're entitled to be because they're young. So it's all gone very well. But I do think that we were right to say, and I said it with you, and I've been with you too at key moments in this saga, we were right to say that she should clear the air personally. And I said that a short video message, not going into any great detail, not making a meal out of it, but that would set the matter in proper context and would serve the purpose of driving the trolls back into their holes. It won't stop them going on with their nasty little work, but it will stop them being believed. And I think maybe she was listening to us, or maybe she was listening to common sense, because essentially what we were saying was good common sense and good PR advice, actually.
I mean, what I think is quite poignant to me is when people say, oh, what's the point of the royal family? What are they for? And you can point out that we have an unwritten constitution and they're still the head of state. But throughout history, whether it's been sort of miniatures painted by Hans Holbein or Queen Victoria's sort of putting Christmas trees up and everyone else following suit, they've been a mirror on society and an example, really, that sets the tone of this country. And I think that, you know, what you've both said today is quite important. That hasn't Kate handled herself sensibly and elegantly and with grace? And has it not given us all pause to think, how has our behaviour been in this time?
It's an extremely good point. Of course, I've always felt that the constitutional monarchy, which we're lucky to live in, is a reflection of the British character. It suits us. Can you imagine the actual trauma of having to elect a president? The people who would put themselves forward would immediately disqualify them. They'd be exactly the wrong sort of people. So if at the moment we had to choose between, shall we say, Tony Blair and Richard Branson well, any Sir Lenny Henry, I mean, people would go out and hang themselves from the nearest lamppost and vote for these sort of people who would be pushing them forward. No, a constitutional monarchy does suit us in many, many ways, because it removes the head of state, who, of course, is also the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The forces don't swear to be loyal to any particular government or party. They swear to be loyal to the crown, represented by the king there, seeing with his family in slightly happier days, because the first year of his reign was a triumph, I thought. So that makes the poignancy of what's happening lately even more pronounced. So, yes, you're absolutely right. We have to look at ourselves. I think everybody can do well by being a little bit kinder to the people around them and the people in the wider community, and thinking before they speak, because words hurt and words count. That's how we communicate in this world, with words. And if we are careful with them, and you are always on your channel, and so am I in everything I write and broadcast, I think it would be a better world all round.
And let's, as we say goodbye to you, Michael, let's remember
Michael.
what Kate's been through for the last 2 weeks. She has held her counsel for the sake of her children until that term ended. So she went through a lot for those kids. I feel a bit bad about it because I kept saying, come on, get on screen now. She was waiting for the end of term. She did it on Friday night, and it has done a world of good. Michael, great to talk to you as always.
Thanks, Michael.
My pleasure.
Cole. We're still joined in the studio by former government advisor Charlie Rowley. Yeah, so it sort of all fell into place, didn't it, on Friday night? Suddenly we worked out why William hadn't made it to King Constantine's memorial service with just half an hour to spare. That absence caused a whole slew of conspiracy theories, and they've been going on ever since. But now we know why he suddenly pulled out, because he just found out Kate has got cancer, and now we know why she waited until Friday. Should have thought of it, really. She was waiting for the end of term so she could be around her kids as they digested this news that she was having to announce to the world.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And the idea that you've got to, as a parent, be able to tell your kids that in a way in which they would understand and give them the reassurance, but also, make them aware that actually this is going to be headline news, and, mummy's going to be across every front page of every national newspaper, every international newspaper probably the next day. There'll be lots of questions that have to come. There'll have to be more appearances in time, because people will, and I'm sure the Kensington Palace will want to update the public when it's appropriate on progress that's being made in terms of her health. So going through all of that, you're absolutely right, is no easy thing to do, and it just shows actually the difference. You were talking a second ago about people and people's responsibilities. Excuse me, the difference between those people that serve in the armed forces that Michael was just talking about a second ago, the way in which Kate has handled herself, the way in which the vast majority of the public have responded with goodwill and sent flowers and hope and pray for her for the rest of her treatment, versus those horrible, vile online trolls, people in their back bedrooms who've got nothing else better to do than berate and fan hate, basically, against someone who has done something so incredibly brave.
This is what really strikes me as so poignant when it comes to, we were talking earlier about the relationship with Harry and Meghan. It seems to me there's a certain sort of special reserve of speculation and gossip and conspiracy which surrounds women in the public eye. I'm sure men out there, but it's men as well. It isn't. It is especially women. Poor Kate was the one labelled as being the potential royal racist. Poor Kate was caught by that COVID scabies with his tittle-tattle book, A Stepford Wife. Poor Kate, where are you? Why aren't you doing this? Oh, you look skinny. Has she got this? Has she got that? Is it this? Is it an affair? Is it the and she's just quietly got on with being a mum to 3 kids, a wife who supports her husband, who supports the institutions of this country. And that is not an easy job. And whoever thinks, oh, you wake up in the morning with a silver spoon in your house, get real. This is a very difficult job. It takes a lot of self-control. And you think the one person who would get this is Harry, because that's what he always says about his mum. My mum had to go through stuff that you would never understand because she was a woman in the public eye. And then there's his wife and him sitting by her side doing exactly what he says the world did to his mum.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And I think, look, people will remember Friday forever, and they will have cemented in their minds, if it wasn't already cemented, just what good that Kate and William do for this country, what they do on the international stage, versus 2 others, the other half of the family, that have up sticks, cashed in, and have no further part to play.
There are all sorts of sources of William's fury, the racism, the slave driving, all that nonsense. But one thing that has infuriated, or did infuriate him, I know, was Harry's classification of William's relationship with Kate as being Kate being one of those women that royals have to marry, whereas I, Harry, married for love. Yeah. Mine is a real love story. Theirs is just a relationship of duty. It is not, quite clearly, and William remains furious about this. And as I said earlier, I don't want to be depressing about this, but I suspect it will be a cold day in hell before William speaks to Harry again. I don't think they ever will again.